Hello, I want to show you some guys something and what's going on with some Israeli people, what they're saying, and why there's such a backlash. Here's the video.
Oh, like Brick City out here, mid-range. Oh, my goodness, I can't buy a bucket up. Oh, you're joking. You're joking. No way. Okay, all right, my bad. All of the links are in the show description already, by the way. But as I think you'll notice, the one for the TikToker. Oh no, it is there. Oh no, I'm wrong. Hold on. Here we go. So the new one is there. Okay, here we go. My bad. Here we go. Back at it. So this is refresh.
This is so strange. My video of me talking about how I was offered $5,000 to support Israel publicly on my TikTok page was just taken down. This email was sent to my business email that I have set up with my management, where they basically say if I go live and pledge my support to Israel, they'll give me $5,000, saying I've fallen for the lies of rabid dogs and it's essential to not spread the lies of terrorists. An absolutely horrible racist email. And I know I'm far from the only influencer right now who's getting emails and offers like this. This was the comment section of that video. One mutual got offered $2,500, another mutual got offered $750, another mutual said the same people hit him up. And those are just my friends. I've seen plenty of videos on TikTok of people showing different messages, different dollar amounts, of people offering them to pledge support to Israel online. So this is something 100% real that is happening to influencers. Israel is trying to buy support for their war. You cannot buy my morals, you cannot buy my opinions. No amount of money will make it okay with me for Israel to be murdering thousands of innocent Palestinians, cutting off all food, water, electricity, and fuel access, because that is wrong. That is the type of stuff terrorists do. Terrorism in response to terrorism does not cancel out. It's still exactly what it is. Terrorism. Free Palestine. Watch out for influencers who've been bought out. And as always, have a great night, guys.
All right. So initially, and if you have any skepticism, as I would have had watching that cold or whatever, out of context or on its own, hold that thought. In other words, hold the thought of your concern about seeing this discussed in if you feel that way, seeing this discussed in TikTok, or what kind of source is this guy on his little video? I admit that's a thing for me too. But hold that thought, because it is going to be relevant here in a moment, and so yeah. But initially, at least that's how I feel when I see these things, and I think I've even asked some people to stop sending me TikToks because I don't like them as sources, and I don't ever feel like they do the source material justice. But that notwithstanding, let's move on here a little bit to another piece sent to add a little bit of context here from the outlet Semaphore from this morning. No, from the 9th. Sorry, that is today, but the 9th. According to Liz Hoffman and Ben Smith, billionaires discuss $50 million in anti-Hamas media blitz. All right. Wall Street and Hollywood billionaires have discussed in recent weeks a plan to spend as much as $50 million on a media campaign to quote, define Hamas to the American people as a terrorist organization, end quote. Oh, this is perfect for a media studies course and for my course on public opinion, propaganda, persuasion, whatever. All of these courses, this is perfect.
It was just total relief to me, and I just started crying.
Sorry, I just got a funny, yeah, okay. there is from the perspective of those defending Israel, there is a need to define Hamas to the American people as a terrorist organization, and they want to spend millions to do it, tens of millions. Not for healthcare, houselessness, food, education, but to convince people that Hamas are terrorists, we got to come up with tens of millions of dollars. Real estate billionaire Barry Sternlicht launched a campaign in the days after October 7th attacks on Israel, and the email viewed by Semaphore sought $1 million donations each from dozens of the business world's wealthiest people, including CNN owner David Zaslav and Endeavor CEO and talent agent Ari Emanuel, who some of us will know is the brother of Ram, Obama's former chief of staff and mayor of Chicago. And of course, Ari is famous for his role in whatchamacallit, that TV show. There is a great scene where that character is being invited into the power above him, and the character Ari in that show, what was that HBO show? Whatever it was, but there's this scene where he's discussing with who would be his boss or main or investor or whatever, and the guy tells him, I think it was the owner of the studio that Ari worked for, and the guy tells him, he says, Ari, right now I pay you enough, you can go into any store and anywhere in the world and buy whatever you want. He said, but if you stay with me, you will own the stores that people like you go into. Entourage, thank you, Bellamy, Elon, Red Sea, all of you, thank you very much. So I've always enjoyed scenes like that where you get a little gem of truth about wealth and levels. But continuing here, the campaign would aim to distinguish between anti-Semites and the Palestinian situation, he wrote. A U.S. and global media increasingly focused coverage as U.S. global media and global media increasingly focused coverage on deaths in Gaza, potentially eroding sympathy and support for Israel. Public opinion will surely lift as scenes, real or fabricated by Hamas, of civilian Palestinian suffering will surely erode Israel's current empathy in the world community, he wrote. We must get ahead of the narrative. So first of all, I love that. Public opinion will surely shift as scenes, real or fabricated. So as, never mind the unjustifiable claims of fabrication. I mean, the idea that people who have very little resources, power, electricity, internet, food, water, internet, are going to somehow be able to stage mass death. But he's acknowledging, in other words, if the real story gets out, public opinion will surely shift. Yeah, duh. It's really hard to justify what you're doing. So we have to get ahead of the narrative and start by painting these people as terrorists. The email was sent to more than 50 household names, including the media mogul David Geffen, investors Michael Milken and Nelson Peltz, and tech luminaries Eric Schmidt and Michael Dell. All told, the recipients have a net worth of nearly $500 billion, according to Bloomberg and Forbes data. So again, of course, because they accumulated that wealth off the backs of this level of oppression, they're not going to use that wealth to handle the oppression. They want to use the wealth as all those in power have ever only wanted to use wealth in terms of its relationship to media, to produce the narrative, the public opinion, the psychological warfare, the propaganda, the conclusions that we are all meant to draw. Some of those on the chain have already been vocal already. Investor Bill Ackman and Apollo CEO Mark Rowan criticized universities for their handling of pro-Palestinian student demonstrations, and Michael Bloomberg donated $44 million to Israel's nonprofit Emergency Medical Service. So the people with billions of dollars of aid and all the technology and all the resources are getting support for their medical service. Those without any of that are being bombed with the claim that their hospitals are atop Hamas fighters. Some have criticized the Israeli government as well. Emmanuel denounced Bibi Netanyahu just days after the attack, saying, I just think it's time we get rid of this man. Okay, but get rid of him in what way? By giving him and his administration more money to continue what they're doing? or to stand in solidarity with the people who he's abusing. They've called for a media blitz to define Hamas, not just the enemy of Israel, but of the United States, because of course, they know, even with all the propaganda and the history and the mythology around the Bible and all this other kind of stuff, not everybody's going to be on board with supporting Israel. But they might if they think the U.S. is also a threat. Recent polling from the University of Maryland and Ipsos found that a groundswell of support since October 7th attacks for Israel isn't shared by younger liberal Americans. And there is our segue to our last piece for this political afternoon delight.
You have to check out Kohl's this holiday season. From home decor to stylish clothes, Kohl's has something for everyone on your list.
This guy, Greg Locke, is one of those hardcore Christian pastors, televangelist. And as you all know, these guys are going yummy in my tummy when it comes to the chaos and the destruction in the Middle East right now. They're all cheering Israel on. Now, the reason why they are is a little dark. I'm sure most of you know the story, but if you don't, we'll get to it after the clip here. But the short version is they want Jesus to come back and kill most of the Jews and usher in the rapture so Christians can go to heaven. And that's why they're cheering on Israel. Okay, so here he is. He's going to talk about what's going on. And he doesn't really hide in any way, shape, or form the celebration over genocide. Watch this.
Israel should make the Gaza Strip a parking lot by this time next week.
We're literally 6 seconds in and we already have a call for genocide. Israel should turn the Gaza Strip into a parking lot. This is one of the classic genocidal claims that Zionists make and hawks make.
Destroy the whole thing. And anybody that's going to support this Hamas nonsense.
I love how, okay, so yeah, you're supporting Hamas nonsense if you don't want to genocide Gaza and turn it into a parking lot. Really? Because I was under the impression it's more supporting Palestinian civilians to not kill all Palestinians. God, they're so dishonest, and this is the trick. So many of them, I guess you love Hamas. I guess they've been saying this about young people because of TikTok. You love Osama bin Laden, you love Hamas. You know, a poll just came out where they asked Americans how they feel about Hamas. Do you want to know what their approval rating is? 1%. 1%. So this bait and switch of like, bro, you just love Hamas. The only way you could prove you don't love Hamas is to support turning all of Gaza into a parking lot. Jesus Christ.
Joe Biden ought to be tried for treason. You understand that? Now, I get it. Obama's the real president behind him anyhow, and so he's the one that ought to be tried for treason.
I love, okay, these people love that conspiracy theory, but I love the idea that Biden should be tried for treason. Meanwhile, he's currently sucking off Israel, cheering on their genocide, and a lot of people don't know this, but Trump took over $100 million from Sheldon Adelson when he ran for president. And then, when he got in office, one of the things he did, at the direct request of Sheldon Adelson, is move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, which helped lead to the Hamas terror attack that then came. So if anybody's doing treason or representing another country, it would be Trump representing Israel when he was in office, as opposed to doing what's best on behalf of the American people. Even the Abraham Accords, that was a giant middle finger to Palestinians. They were basically begging Palestinians to strike at Israel, begging Hamas to fight back against Israel. Because when they do the Abraham Accords, they're trying to work around the Palestinians, pretend like Palestinians don't exist, bring about peace, and eventually make it so that Israel has the support of everybody and can just annex the Gaza Strip and annex the West Bank. And so Trump was representing Israel and the Israel lobby as president. So you really want to have a conversation about freedom, about treason? Now, Biden's, of course, a massive friend to the Israel lobby, too. But, of course, look, this guy would hear me say this, and he'd go, that's fine. I like Trump selling out and representing Sheldon Adelson and Israel over the U.S. He would say he likes that. Why? Because, you'll see, he seems more pro-Israel than he is pro-U.S. Why? Because of Jesus. Wait for it.
So I hope Netanyahu's a leader. He just mows the whole thing down by this time next week.
We have like 4 calls for genocide within the span of 39 seconds.
If you think all this open border stuff is not an opportunity for a bunch of Hamas sleeper cells to come into this nation right now and start killing innocent men, women, and children, you have lost your mind.
When you know absolutely nothing about geopolitics. Hamas is not like Al-Qaeda or ISIS. They're not. So yes, they are an Islamist organization, a Sunni Islamist organization, but also their goals are territorial in the sense that they want to create a Palestinian state. That's their goal. It's not, they don't want a global caliphate. They know they don't have the power or the ability to create a global caliphate. They want a Palestinian state, and they want, Sunni Islamism to rule it. The idea that they would attack Ohio, like, again, these people don't know anything.
I'm sick of all these Christians saying we ought to have peace with Islam. Islam is a satanic death cult, and they would cut your head off before I said amen in this sermon if they had a chance to. The Muslim religion hates Jewish people to the core of who they are.
Sounds like you hate Muslims to the core of who they are. That's what it sounds like to me.
What they ought to do is evacuate up there on the hill and get a great big missile and blow that wicked dome of the rock plumb off of the spot where it's standing right now so we can get that third.
Jesus, all of like the cheering, the applause, like these people are frothing at the mouth genocidal. It's astonishing.
Temple rebuilt and usher in the coming of Jesus.
There it is. There it is. You hear that? That's what it's all about. Usher in the coming of Jesus.
Get that third temple rebuilt and usher in the coming of Jesus. That video of that woman that survived the Holocaust in a wheelchair, they snatched her up. Kidnapped a Holocaust survivor by somebody with American dollars in their pocket.
The one with American dollars is the IDF. What are you talking about?
A government that should have been smoked out months ago when they stole the election to begin with. Yes, I said it.
These people, okay, understand something. These people are horny for Armageddon. And that's why they support Israel to the extent that they do. They are horny for Armageddon. Because the way it works in the Bible, for the rapture to happen and Jesus to come back, Israel needs to regain all of its biblical territory, right? And that includes parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon, parts of Egypt, definitely includes the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, or as they would call Judea and Samaria. In order for Jesus to come back, the Jews have to be in their proper biblical homeland. And so they want to make that happen so that Jesus can come back, and I believe the story is they convert, I want to say it's like 160,000 or so Jews, and then the rest of them burn in eternal hellfire. And so it's ironic their deep support for Israel is really based on, I can't wait for most of you to die in eternal hellfire so that I can go meet Jesus. So that the rapture can happen and Jesus can come back. So in other words, you need to understand something. This is what these people really believe. This is what they really believe. This is what hardcore fundamentalist evangelical Christians really believe. John Hagee, another great example of that. But what I always find amazing is they never reckon with the empirical reality of their claims being tested. So John Hagee said that the end of the world was going to happen between 2014 and 2015, and the sign was going to be the 4 blood moons. He wrote a book about it, where we have like red moons in the sky. That didn't happen. He just woke up the next day as if he wasn't just, his life's work for the past decade wasn't just blown up right in front of his face. So these guys are astonishing. And by the way, John Hagee said that Hitler was sent by God to help the Jews get back to their homeland in Israel. But somehow these guys are the real friends of Jewish people. These guys are, because they want the rapture to come and they want these people to die. But look, they're not hiding it, right? This is out in the open. They are flat out genocidal to Palestinians. Now, I need you to stop and reflect on the fact that there's probably plenty of people in positions of power who believe what this guy's saying right here. God forbid Trump gets back in office, or any other Republican, any sort of, even the fake.
No matter who you are, being yourself can be tough when you have severe asthma. Triggers can pop up out of nowhere, causing...
Sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, kindly smash that subscribe button, turn your notification so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I'm saying a very big shout out to every one of you for the support you all shower me here with. I am grateful, and you all are super sweet. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about the Jewish lobby in America, which is called IPAC, right? They actually brought out $100 million to unseat black people in Congress, right? And as it stands, they are doing all they can to unseat those black members in Congress. And I am asking, and if you are in support with anything going on, or like if you are against the genocide that is going on in Palestine, you are also likely to be on, you are also their target. So people are asking them, why do you have to pay all this money for people to support what the evil you are doing? And then because you do not want people to know what you are doing, you want to lay off the people that are speaking up for the oppressed. Let's get into this video.
Just imagine AIPAC, the Jewish lobby in America. They can find $100 million to try and unseat black members of Congress and anyone who does not toe the line about what they want for the Israeli government and taxpayers' money. I want to know, when did America become the breast that they suck the milk out of our taxpayers' money? When exactly did these PACs put so much fear into Americans that if you disagree with apartheid in Israel, with settlers stealing people's houses, that they have the power to unseat Congress people? I wonder if they realize that all that money that AIPAC, all the money that they're getting, that they could send that money to Israel and leave the American taxpayer money alone. I wonder why those people in Congress don't tell them, all of these PACs, all of these organizations, you know what? You guys have a lot of money. We have no problem with you sending it directly to the Israeli government. This bullshit with these PACs have to stop. No one should have this kind of influence on the American government. It almost feels like America is not America. When did we become second-class citizens to another country? And we need to stop sending our money everywhere. We just need to stop sending our money until everybody in America has health care, has a decent living. We need to stop sending them our money. And we need to elect people who will vote no, not to send our money to these places.
So I've been trying to do these videos without being deemed as anti-Semitic. It's not an easy task to accomplish when you're trying to notify someone of something, especially against a certain demographic of people in this world. Now, I don't even want to get into the whole definition of anti-Semitic, because truthfully to me it is very vague. It leaves a lot to be interpreted. But let's get at it. So I've had several videos trying to illuminate this challenge that we have in the African American community. 2022, Summer Lee. AIPAC invested $2 million into the incumbent Democrat to be her. She still won in Pennsylvania. I brought that to y'all a Affirmative Action, Edward Blum, American Alliances, who is backed by, also, he's a person, conservative. But who do we think is funding him? They never let you know who's funding him. I brought y'all that video. They cannot find who's funding him. I put my money on that it's AIPAC and the ADL. I put my money on that. Why do I say this? Because I want to just say it plain and clear. We have been made the face of anti-Semitism since Malcolm X. They have wrote pieces on us being the biggest contributors to anti-Semitism in this country. Us. I will do a follow-up video with some of the articles.
When it comes to your health, you do you. You ping and pong that.
Annika, ich habe die Bombe gefunden.
Okay, Johann, das sollte in blauer und gelber Draht sein. Dreh den blauen durch.
Well, there is tremendous pressure inside the political process to make sure that the voters stay aligned inside either the Democrat or Republican parties. Why? Because both of those parties have been captured by special interests. And those special interests are, quite frankly, the antithesis of the interests of the people. And so therefore, for example, if people in the United States care about education, but unfortunately there's a banker that gets in between the student and the student's ability to go to school, if they care about health care, there's the insurance industry that gets in between the patient and the doctor who is seeking to provide care. And so we have all of these special interests that have positioned themselves in between the political decision makers and the people themselves. The process now is more responsive to those special interests than it is to the values and the wishes of the American people. When the American people then decide that they are sick and tired of this kind of configuration, the only place to go so that one's values have the likelihood or the opportunity to become policy is outside of the corral that has been built for you. And an interesting example is the Tea Party. The people of the Tea Party were originally angry about the direction of their country. And who wouldn't be angry at the direction that the United States has taken now? They initially said that they would vote neither Democrat nor Republican, that they were independent voters. And then what happened? The powers that be sent Sarah Palin in and corralled this group, this nascent group of independent voters, and captured them again for the Republican Party.
So you're saying this is basically how it's done. Even if there's an independent voice, then basically that voice is not going to be heard in the way perhaps those individuals, the grassroots movements, wants it to be heard, but basically it's hijacked at the end for a certain agenda, or what? Tell me.
Well, it was definitely hijacked. The whole Tea Party apparatus was hijacked and then corralled back into the Republican Party fold so that these could then stay where the powers that be would like them to be.
So let me say, with you, because you served in the Congress, U.S. Congress, and obviously you were representing a certain district in Georgia, and I believe that parts of it was a very deprived area. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you go there, you have a certain agenda for the people that you want to make their voice heard,
yes,
and serve their interests. Are you allowed to actually do that? Tell me about the process itself as far as when serving as a member of Congress. Well, the district that I initially represented in Congress, I represented so many districts because redistricting was a tool that was used to target me, to eliminate me from the Congress. But the district that initially sent me there was a district that was comprised of rural blacks in the black belt of Georgia. These are people who have not had access to equal opportunity at all. And in fact, when I went into that district, I found such poverty that I didn't even know existed in my own country. I had people in my district who did not have running water in their homes, and I'm talking about 1992. I'm talking about a district where the members of the Ku Klux Klan regularly threatened blacks and even threatened my supporters to the extent that they had shots fired at them. I was told that I needed to get out of town before it got dark. I mean, this is pre-civil rights movement type of stuff. And that's the kind of atmosphere that existed. But what we were able to do in the short 4 years that I represented that particular area is that we were able to bring whites to the table. We were able to challenge those practices that were not acceptable. We were able to bring blacks into areas of power that they never in their wildest dreams thought that they could possess and own. And then the district was dismantled. Then the district was dismantled. Then the district was dismantled. What does that mean? The district was challenged in the Supreme Court. And with the assistance of the Anti-Defamation League,
We are hard-working Americans.
This is what's important to us.
Options for reliable power. Labor policies that help entrepreneurs. It's possible.
That's prosperity.
Learn more at prosperityispossible.com.
Providing food and services to the community.
The Gaza-Palestine conflict has long been a source of tension and violence in the Middle East, drawing the attention of the international community. The recent decision by the BRICS group to impose sanctions on Israel has sent shockwaves through global politics. This move, unprecedented in its scope and impact, reflects the deepening divide over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In this essay, we will explore the background of the BRICS nations, the historical context of the Gaza-Palestine conflict, the reasons behind BRICS sanctions on Israel, and the potential consequences of this decision. Before diving into the intricacies of the sanctions imposed on Israel, it is crucial to understand the BRICS group itself. BRICS is an acronym for the 5 major emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These nations have come together to form a coalition that aims to promote economic growth, political cooperation, and mutual understanding among its member states. While BRICS started primarily as an economic forum, it has evolved into a platform for discussing global issues and shaping international policies. The Gaza-Palestine conflict is deeply rooted in history, with both sides claiming historical rights to the land. The conflict can be traced back to the late 19th century, when Jewish immigration to Palestine began. Tensions escalated throughout the 20th century, culminating in the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, which led to the establishment of the State of Israel. This event remains a focal point in the Palestinian narrative, as it resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs. Over the years, there have been multiple conflicts, wars, and negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians, with no lasting solution in sight. The Gaza Strip, a small territory on the Mediterranean coast, has been a flashpoint of violence and suffering. Since Hamas, an Islamist political and military organization, took control of Gaza in 2007, there have been several rounds of conflict between Hamas and Israel, resulting in casualties on both sides. The decision by BRICS to impose sanctions on Israel has sent a strong message to the international community. To understand the reasons behind this move, we must delve into the following factors. The ongoing conflict in Gaza has resulted in a humanitarian crisis, with civilians, especially children, bearing the brunt of the violence. Reports of civilian casualties, destroyed infrastructure, and limited access to basic necessities like clean water and health care have sparked international outrage. BRICS nations argue that Israel's military actions have disproportionately affected the Palestinian population, leading to a grave violation of human rights. BRICS nations have consistently supported a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict, based on the borders established before the 1967 Six-Day War. They contend that Israel's expansion of settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem is a violation of international law and a major obstacle to peace. The sanctions are viewed as a way to pressure Israel to halt its settlement activities and engage in meaningful negotiations. The BRICS group, along with much of the international community, has criticized Israel's unilateral actions, such as the construction of a security barrier and the annexation of the Golan Heights. These actions are seen as undermining the prospects of a peaceful resolution to the conflict. BRICS sanctions are aimed at discouraging such unilateral measures and encouraging Israel to return to the negotiating table. Despite numerous international efforts to broker a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians, the conflict has remained in a diplomatic stalemate. The BRICS nations believe that imposing sanctions on Israel is a way to break this impasse and push both parties towards meaningful negotiations. They argue that economic pressure can be a powerful tool to influence a change in Israel's approach to the conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has garnered significant attention and support from various global movements and civil society organizations. Public opinion worldwide, especially in BRICS nations, has been sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. BRICS leaders may have taken these sentiments into account when deciding to impose sanctions on Israel, aligning their foreign policy with the sentiments of their citizens. The decision by BRICS to impose sanctions on Israel carries significant geopolitical implications. Let's explore some of the potential consequences of this move. Sanctions can have a severe economic impact on Israel, particularly if they target key sectors like defense, technology, or agriculture. Israel relies heavily on its exports and trade partnerships, and sanctions from BRICS nations could disrupt its economic stability. This economic pressure may incentivize Israel to reconsider its policies in the Gaza-Palestine conflict. Israel has historically enjoyed strong support from the United States and some European nations. BRICS sanctions could lead to Israel's diplomatic isolation on the international stage, making it increasingly reliant on its traditional allies. This isolation may hinder Israel's ability to negotiate effectively in future peace talks. The Middle East is a region of strategic importance, and the BRICS sanctions on Israel may lead to shifts in regional dynamics. It could potentially strengthen alliances between Israel and countries that are not part of BRICS, such as the United States, and alter the balance of power in the Middle East. While BRICS sanctions aim to pressure Israel, they may also have unintended consequences for the Palestinian territories. Economic instability in Israel could affect Palestinian workers who rely on employment there. Additionally, sanctions might not necessarily lead to an immediate resolution of the conflict, potentially prolonging the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. BRICS sanctions on Israel have sparked mixed reactions globally. Some nations and organizations have welcomed the move as a step towards addressing the long-standing conflict, while others have criticized it as counterproductive. The international community will closely watch the impact of these sanctions and their implications for future negotiations. BRICS's decision to impose sanctions on Israel highlights the group's growing role in global politics and conflict resolution. If successful, this move could position BRICS as a key player in mediating international disputes and promoting peace. The imposition of sanctions by BRICS on Israel also highlights the evolving landscape of global geopolitics. BRICS, originally formed as an economic forum, has gradually expanded its focus to include broader geopolitical issues. This decision to sanction Israel demonstrates BRICS nations' willingness to engage in international conflicts and promote their own vision of a just and equitable world order. It marks a shift from their historical role as primarily economic powers to influential players in global politics. Israel's response to the BRICS sanctions will be closely watched. the Israeli government is likely to face pressure from various quarters, both domestically and internationally, to reassess its policies in the Gaza-Palestine conflict. There may be debates within Israel about the effectiveness of the BRICS sanctions and their potential impact on the nation's security and diplomatic relations. Moreover, the United States, a long-standing ally of Israel, is expected to react to the BRICS sanctions. The U.S. government has traditionally used its veto power in the United Nations Security Council to shield Israel from international condemnation and sanctions. However, the BRICS sanctions may further strain U.S.-BRICS relations and raise questions about the future of U.S. involvement in the Middle East peace process. Another aspect to consider is the role of other global powers in this conflict. The European Union, for instance, has historically been involved in peace negotiations in the Middle East and has expressed concerns about the Gaza-Palestine conflict. The BRICS sanctions on Israel may prompt the EU to reevaluate its own stance and actions, potentially leading to a coordinated international effort to resolve the conflict. Furthermore, the impact of BRICS sanctions on Israel's internal politics cannot be underestimated. The Israeli government may face increasing pressure from both its coalition partners and opposition parties to respond to the sanctions decisively. The Israeli public, which has a diverse range of opinions on the Gaza-Palestine conflict, may also become more polarized in response to these external pressures. The BRICS group's decision to impose sanctions on Israel in response to the Gaza-Palestine conflict underscores the complexity and sensitivity of the issue. Humanitarian concerns, international law violations, unilateral actions, diplomatic stalemate, and global public opinion have all played a role in shaping BRICS' stance on the conflict. The potential consequences of these sanctions are far-reaching, affecting Israel's economy, its diplomatic relations, and the regional dynamics of the Middle East. The BRICS sanctions on Israel serve as a powerful reminder of the role that economic and
You want to play hard APAC ADL? It's going to affect your people over there.
The Israelis don't represent the Jewish communities of the world. They represent Zionism and racism. It must be said here. Whoever supports them supports racism. Why are we friends with people who are violating the values of our constitution? Why are we friends with people who are massacring children in hospitals and schools? What must happen? What must be said before the whole world isolates Israel? We're here to take sides in favor of the oppressed, condemn Israel, and declare that it is a murderous apartheid regime engaged in systematic extermination of Palestinians. It is not a single event. They are engaged in a system permanently subjecting Palestinians to racial humiliation. We do this because we understand that our freedom here was attained through massive international solidarity by peoples of the world, 90% of which had never set foot here. It is in this context that we are responding to the suffering of a people who live thousands of kilometers from South Africa. We know that we are international citizens. As we stand here, Israel has massacred over 10,000 Palestinians in Gaza under their military assault, killing children, bombing churches, hospitals, schools. Many have been painting Palestinians who are responding over half a century to Israeli systematic oppression as terrorists. And the label of terrorists, we know it very well, because it is a label that was put to Mandela. It is a label that was given to Sobukwe. It is a label that was given to the liberation movement. The Israeli state was formed in 1948 with the full support of Western powers through forced removals and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Fact. It was inaugurated as a Jewish-only state, where Palestinians who have the right to the land are not returned or are not allowed to return. Yet any Jewish person who was not born there, who has never been there, can go and attain citizenship with immediate effect. They control movements of people through thousands of military checkpoints. In fact, they have built a wall and a fence around Gaza controlling entry and exit of people and goods. The There are separate roads for Palestinians and Jewish people around many Jewish settlements in Palestine. Palestinians do not enjoy freedom to demonstrate against their oppressor. They are told demonstrations, they get arrested, they even get killed. Thousands of Palestinians are arrested without trial, even charged in Israeli military courts. The world knows this. And when Palestinians respond, they are called terrorists. The Israeli state is fundamentally a racist state. Nobody must be allowed to coexist with a fundamentally racist state. You can't be asked, in the interest of the values of our constitution, to recognize a racist state whose establishment is for a Jewish-only people at the expense of Palestinians. Why would you do that? Those are the facts. This is not a religious war, Mruti. It's an evil war. It's not a holy war. There is no people who have a God's right to be superior to anyone. The Israelis don't represent the Jewish communities of the world. They represent Zionism and racism. It must be said here. Whoever supports them supports racism. So, what is South Africa doing in a relationship with a racist regime? If they're engaged in a genocidal exercise, Minister Naledi Pandor, why are you recalling people for consultation? Because you've already declared that there is a genocide. Why are we friends with people who are violating the values of our constitution? Why are we friends with people who are massacring children in hospitals and schools? What must happen? What must be said before the whole world isolates Israel? Israelis, Palestinians for the longest time never asked you for a single bullet, which they should, because they've got the right to fight even with military arms against a racist regime. They've asked you for a simple thing: isolate Israel the way the world isolated apartheid. When are you doing that? Let's sever ties, because a relationship with Israel as South African offends our constitutional values. It offends any rational thinking about coexistence. It offends peace. We should recall the ambassadors. Everybody, we should fire the ambassador of Israel. We can't be friends with Israel until they establish a society in compliance with international law on one hand, and they recognize the right of Palestinians to coexist. I wish for once in our lives we can be on the right side of history.
Please. What's your thoughts? Please be respectful.
From your family, from your friends, from your ancestors, and the worldwide bond that we share that has always put the battery in your back. We're used to being looked at as different because that's what we are. We are different, and that's a good thing. I know that Jews are looked at as weak, but we're stronger than you can imagine. That's why you hurl propaganda to show that we control all the money, that we control all the money, that we control all the money. We control the media because it's plausible. It's plausible because we're just that good. Smart, compassionate, moral, and strong people. And we need to stand taller than ever against all those sick, dumb, uneducated black tar in their blood who hate Jews because they ain't. You hate us because you ain't us. It's always been hurled our way. Hate, prejudice has always been hurled our way. And a lot of times we deal with it with compassion, or the understanding that it might be mental illness, or the understanding that it might be mental illness, or the understanding that it might be mental illness. That off, never again. Anyone saying to me, be on the right side of history, knowing what side I'm on, means you're on the wrong side of history, which means you're on the side of terrorists, murderers, rapists who would burn and behead you and your family. They would love to burn and behead you and your family. There's only right or wrong right now. You either support a caring community or you support extremist exterminators. Never again. Never again. Never again. Yo, if 20 American tourists, 20 American tourists, forget the 1,200 people that were murdered, slaughtered, civilians. If 20 American civilians, all African American, all black, all ages, were taken hostage, and 10 of them were murdered and raped, and there was 10 surviving American tourist hostages that were all black. There's not one in this country that would be talking about ceasefire. There's not one person. It would be bring the hostages back, and they better be alive. They better be pristine. There wouldn't be no ceasefire. There would be no rally. Can you imagine college students ripping down posters of 10 black people from America? If they were taken hostage and 10 others were raped and murdered, nobody would be saying this. The African American community would be demanding they came back. White people, black people, Jewish people would be demanding they come back. There wouldn't be a discussion of a ceasefire. That's a fact. Nobody.
My background is Cuban Chinese. I grew up not knowing anybody was sick, so I currently just met.
I'm just showing truth. This is what's going on.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Well, some very interesting things are happening on planet Earth. Some things are coming to light that have been hidden for so long. So anyway, you have this woman here. You see what kind of woman she is. She says that Judaism is nothing more than, W supremacy. And so, I want you to take a listen at what she has to say about things. I mean, she's the woman. She's saying it. She is the woman from that group of people. And these are her words, so I'm going to let her say it. And then, of course, I'm going to come back and respond to what she's saying. Be right back.
So as an American Jew, I feel like I've had a lot of brushes with Zionism and just sort of narrowly avoided each one. It started when I was in Hebrew school. This is about 3rd grade, and we get a teacher who is from Israel, has recently moved to the area. And in 4th grade, I had his wife. Both of them, obviously, since they just come from Israel, talked all about Israel. And I found this incredibly irrelevant to me. I had only gone to Hebrew school because my mom told me I could get my ears pierced when I had a bat mitzvah. So I was really only there for that. And my connection to Judaism came really from what I knew of my family's history, which was in Eastern Europe, Hungary, Lithuania, Romania, Ukraine, places like that, and then in New York, where we first emigrated to. So Israel just did not seem relevant to me at all, and I hated sitting through Hebrew school classes on it that I just did not care about. Also, a big part of why I never fell for this propaganda is my parents, and I should give them credit where credit is due. Because when my dad heard that we were studying Israel and learning all this touristy Israel stuff and how great it was there and how we should all go there on birthright one day and then join the IDF and make Aliyah, he was like, you are not going to Israel. It's dangerous there. There's a conflict there. And I had vaguely heard of Israel-Palestine's relations on the news. So all I knew about Israel outside of Hebrew school was that it's a dangerous place to go. And then all I was hearing in Hebrew school was that it's the best place ever and so necessary for Jews. And we did all these projects on the founders of Israel. In fact, the only reason I did not fail out of and have to repeat 5th grade of Hebrew school was because I pulled a project on Golda Meir out of my ass. I had to do that, or I would have been stuck in Hebrew school an extra year, which, believe me, I did not want to do. So I go through Hebrew school this whole time just kind of having a bad feeling about Israel, and just not really getting why it was supposed to be important to me. And throughout Hebrew school, they're showing you a lot of like Holocaust imagery that's really disturbing, so you understand why Israel is needed. And it is pretty baked into Judaism. Like in the Passover Seder, the last thing you say is next year in Jerusalem, like we're hoping to go back. But my family, to their credit, never says next year in Jerusalem because we don't have any connection to Israel. And basically, everyone in my family thinks that Israel was a bad choice for a place to do a Jewish state. And our attitude toward it, which comes from this joke my grandfather once made, is like, why did they have to put the Jewish state somewhere people already were living? Why couldn't they just have picked like an unpopulated corner of Wyoming instead, where hardly anyone lives anyway? So every year, instead of next year in Jerusalem at the Passover Seder, we say next year in Wyoming. All that to say, the Holocaust imagery was terrible, but it didn't really move me, and I distinctly remember the first time I heard about another recent genocide in middle school, which was the Great Purge. And I was like, that's so crazy that we don't learn about any other genocides. And I learned about the Rwandan genocide, and I was like, what? Why did I only ever hear about the Holocaust? Not just in Hebrew school, but also in elementary school. But anyway, the thing that really first made me ask what about Palestine was when I read this book, Habibi, in 8th grade. I don't know if you know this book, but it is just one of my most formative books that I've ever read in my entire life. It's about a Palestinian American family who moves to Israel, and the young daughter falls in love with a Jewish boy. It's written by a Palestinian author, and it was the first time I had ever heard any kind of Palestinian perspective on Israel. And that was the first time I ever felt like, you know what, it would be really cool to go to Israel for a visit just to see it. And I knew the only way I was going to be able to afford that was to go on Birthright. But I also knew that going on Birthright, there would be even more pro-Israel propaganda shoved down my throat. Nevertheless, I vaguely planned to go on Birthright, but I kept putting it off, largely because of an experience I had my freshman year of college. So because there was no other Jewish life on my campus, I started going to the Chabad house, and they had this class they were running that paid you $350 to take it for 10 weeks, learning about each of the 10 commandments through like their perspective. The class itself was not the issue, but two things happened at Chabad that really made me realize that I did not even want to align myself with like mainstream Judaism at all. The first one was the attitude towards marriage. And I knew like from the Broad City episode and jokes about finding a nice Jewish boy that like that was an important thing to Jewish people, but I did not know it was to this level. I remember specifically once the rabbi said that it was so important to find your basher, your Jewish soulmate, that you might have to go all the way to Israel to do that, and that's okay. Which really underscores everything the creator I stitched has been saying about birthright. I had never encountered Jews before who were like anti-intermarriage, like they really want you to marry somebody who is ethnically Jewish and then have them become more religious. And yes, people can convert, but really the focus on ethnic Judaism made me feel like it was a bit of a keep the bloodlines pure kind of thing. This just had echoes of white supremacy to me, and I would yell that far and wide because I was so upset about it. I just never encountered that attitude before. And there was this one guy in the course who particularly loved to rail against intermarriage and how he couldn't get his brother to date Jewish girls. And one day he started talking about how much he supported Trump for his stance on Israel. And keep in mind, this is early 2016 before the election, so the stakes are pretty damn high. He also said he thinks Bernie Sanders is a traitor to the Jewish people for his stance on Palestine, and that in particular really revved me up. And listen, I am from Burlington, Vermont, okay? Bernie Sanders is basically our head of state. We love him, and we don't just love him for his politics, although I agree with almost all of his politics. We love him because he's a really good person, and a lot of us have had personal encounters with him and know him, and he's just like a good guy. Bernie also is originally from Brooklyn, like my family, and came to Burlington, Vermont, like my family. and he was the only Jew I'd ever heard of not unequivocally supporting Israel at the time. So when this guy says that, I was like, I am out of here. I had never met a conservative Jew before, other than the Zionism. I came from a very progressive synagogue, and I was shocked and horrified, because I could see that Trump was aligning himself with neo-Nazism and white supremacy and people who wanted to eliminate all Jews. So this was my other brush with Zionism, and it's kind of a miracle I didn't fall for it. I also almost went on Birthright, but then I kept putting it off because of COVID, and I kept putting it off because I wanted someone to go with me because I didn't want to buy into all the propaganda. And then finally, in my final year of eligibility this year, I'm 26 right now, it was full, so I couldn't go. And now I probably never will see Israel, and that's okay with me, because I really only ever wanted to go as a tourist. And I feel kind of lucky about that, because I've come so close to being indoctrinated so many times. And maybe it was my upbringing and my parents' views on Israel, or maybe it was just me seeing the contradictions and how it was talked about, but I just never quite fell for it, because I could see that supporting Israel also meant supporting a lot of things that I don't support. For example, Donald Trump and genocide. So that's my story of how I made it through Zionist spaces without ever quite buying in.
Okay, so she said a mouthful there, and we're starting to see these confessions bubbling to the surface more and more and more. Now, she said it. We're not saying it. She said it. Some people are starting to feel no connection to the story that's been told to them. And so the question is, does this have anything to do with Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 19? That's an interesting number there, isn't it? 1619. Anyway, very, very interesting stuff that we're hearing coming out of these people's mouths. This young lady who, if you were passing her on the street, you wouldn't know if she was from just any area of Europe or any suburban white community. Some people don't see a difference in being the Ish people or being a white person. Do y'all see what I'm saying? Some try to say that they are two different racial groups of people. A lot of people say that they are two different racial groups, but many of them, I don't know. Why is this woman and many others comparing her culture to W supremacy? If they are two different people, I'm just asking the question. Can somebody help me out with that? If they are two different groups of people racially, why is it that this woman right here and many others are saying that Judaism is W supremacy? Anyway, chop it up in the comment section, that's all.
Well, I hope this kind of opened your light on this topic. So you see how this all put together? Truth is being revealed, and people come from all walks of life. So, I mean, what's there more to say? What is there? This is, you see the information. You see what the cause of it, and now it's being exposed. And now you see the circumstances. So if they put sanctions on Israel, what AIPAC and ADL don't understand, it's going to affect Israelis over here, businesses. Then it's going to affect the businesses over in America. So why you coming at us? Your kingdom is coming down. Your kingdom is coming down, AIPAC, ADL. Your kingdom is coming down. And therefore, the ones that fund, it's going to be limited. Because now the international affects the local here in America. And not only in America, but around the world. That means Canada, wherever there's people from Israel, that's what's going to affect that. So keep your foot on her neck. Keep your foot on her neck and like you do other people. Because it's flying back in your face. I did videos. They're already talking about boycotting your products. Israeli products in different parts of the world. And some of them products going to eventually get here in America. And if there's product, now while we on a downward economy, watch your grocery stores, and certain products might not get picked up. See, this is going to hit them in the pocket while they're trying to come at us and other people. See, it ain't costing. And Michael Rapport, you need to see the bigger picture. You need to see the bigger picture before you put your mouth on us. You think that's what it is, but you don't know how it affects. It all has a connection. It all has a connection. If it touched down in different countries, it's going to eventually hit our economy in America. And nobody going to want to do business with us, and even American products. So nice going. So you can get mad at us and throw a fit, insult our intelligence, but at the end of the day, it's being revealed. Your kingdom is coming down. And that anti-Semitism stuff is getting played out all over the place. It's getting played out. People are getting fed up. And now you have pushed the world against it. Not because of the Bible, because of who took the identity and tried to fit it into the narrative. Now you have people saying it who are your young people who found out themselves. So now truth is coming forward. Nice going, guys. Be careful what you be arrogant to, because it might blow back up in your face. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoy this video. Share, like, and subscribe. See you on the next video. Have a blessed day.